Good evening. We are back to the study of the Spirit's book. We are going to start today chapter 12 of book 3. Book 3 is moral laws, and this is the last chapter. We studied the 10 divine laws according to the vision that Kardec made, inspired and guided by the spirits. So after learning all the laws, the different laws that guides us on this journey, we have wrap up of those laws in this chapter 12, moral perfection, that will talk about what are we expected to achieve by learning and putting in practice all the 10 divine laws that we learn from. Okay, so we're going to start with virtues and vices, which is question 893. And I'm going to ask Philip to read for us.
Which is the most admirable of all the virtues? All virtues are admirable, as they all are signs of progress on the moral path. Every act of voluntary resistance to the seductive influence of temptations for wrongdoing is a sign of virtue. But the sublimity of virtue entails the sacrifice of self-interest for the good of others without having any ulterior motives. The most admirable of all virtues is that which is based on charity and is the most fair-minded.
Okay, so when I talk about virtues, right, it's difficult for us to divide virtues in better virtues and less good virtues, because virtues are virtues, right? They are all good. Now, the most admirable virtue for each one of us is the one that we achieve by overcoming our most difficult imperfections. So it's going to be different for each one of us. The spirits talk here, the sacrifice of self-interest for the good of others, right? But the sacrifice of self-interest for the good of others can be several different things, right? And all virtues that are based on charity, they should be all good virtues. I think that we may even think of being a good person is a virtue, right? That everything else needs to fit into it, right? Because when you are a good person and you are trying to improve every day and you are fighting against your imperfections or your vices, that's all we need. The virtue we need is the virtue of going forward with our challenges of improving ourselves, right? So I think it's hard for us to choose between virtues. And when we talk about vices, we are going to talk later, but we can think the same way, right? What's the worst vice? It's the one that bothers us most, that one that prevents us from moving forward. For each person is different, right? Some vices for some people are easy to overcome, and for some people are very hard to overcome. So with virtues, we can talk about it in the same way. Okay?
$8.94.
Yes.
Some people do good spontaneously, without having to overcome any conflicting feelings. Is there as much merit in their action as in that of others who have to struggle to overcome the imperfections of their own nature in order to do good? Those who no longer struggle against selfishness have already accomplished a certain amount of progress. They have struggled and succeeded, and they no longer have to put forth any effort into behaving morally or justly. Doing good is perfectly natural to them because kindness has become a habit that they have acquired. They should be honored as veterans are. They have earned their medals. As you are still far from perfection, their behavior is astonishing to you because their action contrasts so strongly with that of the rest of humankind, and you admire it given its rarity. However, the exception in your world is the rule in more advanced worlds. Goodness is everywhere in those worlds because they are only inhabited by good spirits, and even a single foul intention would be considered an exceptional monstrosity. That is why these worlds are happy, and it will be the same on earth when the human race has been transformed and understands and practices the law of charity in its true meaning.
Okay, so um, we we have an admiration for this type of people that are capable of doing good spontaneously, right? And the spirits explain very well to us. We are all created simple and ignorant, or simple and unaware, right? So all these people that do good spontaneously, Mother Teresa comes to mind as a good example. Well, they arrived at that stage with their struggles that we are not aware of. So we are going to get there also. It's just because they are an exception nowadays is the reason we notice them, right? Because if we had a million Mother Teresas walking in the world and doing good like the original Mother Teresa, we would give much less importance to it, right? Because they are the exception, they call our attention. But they should be admired, yes. They should serve as an example to us, yes. But they shouldn't be looked as an impossible target because we can get there. Probably is going to take a little longer for some than the others, but doing good is perfectly natural to them. It became a part of who they are, right? So we study the 10 moral laws in this chapter, right? When we are able to combine all those 10 laws and put in practice, become who we are with those laws inside of ourselves, we will become a good spirit, a spirit that is evolved enough to be in a better place, right? And when all of us do this, or the majority of us, that's when we transform the world in a world of regeneration, a happy world, and the evolution of of that we find here, right? That's what the spirits tells us here, that when these worlds are happy, and will be the same on earth when human race has been transformed. So these are just examples that come to earth to give us the direction, to be the model, to show us that it is possible to achieve that. That is not, it's not impossible. There are many more that do the work and we don't know of them, but we have some examples around us of the Gandhis of this world, right? And the Mother Teresas and the Chico Xaviers of this world, that they are spirits that also struggle, also suffered, also went through the difficulties. If you look at the story of Emmanuel, right? If you read the book 2000 years ago, he had the opportunity of personally meeting Jesus, right? And he didn't take advantage of the opportunity at that time. He had to struggle and he had to go through a lot that you can read in the other of his romances. But now we look at Emmanuel and we see him as this evolved spirit that keeps giving us examples and instructions. But he was a proud senator in the Roman times, taking advantage of his position and of others. And 2,000 years later, he's here, right? So it is possible, it is achievable. The way to do it, we know. We have, Spiritism gives us all the guidelines on how to get there. Now, as using Emmanuel's own words for us, right? Discipline, discipline, discipline. That's what we like, right? We know, but we cannot internalize what we know. So what we are lacking is discipline, but it is possible and we can get there, and we are going to get there sooner or later, and depends on our own free will, our own choices. Okay?
895.
Yeah.
Besides the obvious faults and vices, what is the most characteristic sign of imperfection? Self-interest. Moral qualities are too often like gilding on copper that cannot withstand the acid test. Some individuals may possess good qualities that help them to appear to be virtuous, but those qualities, despite proving that they have made a certain amount of progress, may not be capable of standing trial. The slightest disturbance of their narcissism is enough to reveal their true nature. Absolute disinterestedness is so rare on earth that when you do encounter it, you may very well view it as a phenomenon. Attachment to material things is a sign of inferiority, because the more you care for the things of this world, the less you understand your destiny. Your disinterestedness, on the contrary, proves that you have a more elevated view of the future.
Yeah. So the Spirit tells us the most characteristic sign of imperfection is self-interest, selfishness, right? The twin issues that we have, right? The twin problems, the selfishness and pride. And it is something that all of us have it. One thing is to learn, the other thing is to put in practice, right? Because when we are challenged is when it shows what have we truly learned, right? When you talk about learning patience, right? You learn if you are really patient when you are really tested, not in the street, because that's a little bit easier, but by someone close to you, in our family, in our friends. The challenges are there, right? So we know we need to learn to be patient. We know we need to learn to control ourselves. We know we need to internalize those qualities, but we're still not there. But again, we are only going to get there if we exercise that. It's not going to come overnight. We're not going to become patient from one day to the other. So they talk here about attachment to material things, right? Which is something that we all have. And in a way, it's natural, right? Because we have many of the things we fought to have them. We worked hard for those that work hard. We try to preserve what we have. So the problem is not the material possessions themselves. The problem is our attachment to it. And our attachment to it must be seen in a way that we have to learn to take advantage of what we have, but understand that when we return to the spiritual world, we are not going to miss as much as possible what we are leaving behind. Of course, any change is difficult for the majority of people, right? People don't like to change. We get comfortable in our own ways. And the law of progress, one of the characteristics of the law of progress is that everything changes. And the fight against change is the problem that we face, right? So when we go back to the spiritual world, is the biggest change we are going to have in our physical life, right? And what are we really going to miss? If we are going to miss our loved ones, that's natural, the same way we miss our loved ones that depart before us. But if we start missing our car, our houses, our possessions that we have here, that's when it becomes a problem that prevents us from moving forward there in the spiritual world, right? So we need to fight against the attachment to material things. Not saying that is easy, not saying that is 100% achievable, because you have some people that present themselves as, I have no attachments, I don't need anything. Well, again, if you don't need anything, but then you become a burden to society, that's not very good also, right? It's important for you to have to be able to survive by yourself, to be self-dependent and not depend on others. And the problem is that we go from one extreme to the other, right? Extreme attachment and no attachment at all. The target is no attachment at all, while using what we have to be able to be of assistance to others, right? Because if you live in comfortable conditions according to your needs, and each need is different for each one, you can dedicate yourself to others, right? But if you are too running into much necessity to live your life, you don't have time to focus on helping and assisting others, on practicing charity. So it's really not the attachment in the sense of prizing your possession, but the disinterestedness, right, that we should have on our material things. Again, we are imperfect spirits. We are full of imperfections that we need to fight. We cannot fight all of them at the same time, but we need to learn. We need to understand. We need to be aware of what are the challenges that we need to overcome. And there is this famous story of Chico Xavier that he talks about his friend that he meets, that is a spirit, right? That he's walking back home one day and he sees the spirit sitting in a rocking chair in front of a house, right? And he finds it strange, and he talks to the spirit, said, "Wow, I thought you were more, more advanced than this. What are you doing here?" And he said, "Well, the only thing I really miss from Earth is this rocking chair. So from time to time, I come here and sit a little bit in this chair." So, it's possible, it's natural. We are not perfect spirits. But again, if the rocking chair is the only thing we miss, we are doing good, right? Normally, we miss a lot more material things. And again, missing loved ones is natural. We miss the contact, and the more, even if understanding that the separation is temporary, it's a natural process of us getting used to be separated from our loved ones. We are talking here about material things. Okay.
896. Are there people who are indiscriminately generous and who dole out their money without doing any real good due to their lack of a reasonable plan? Is there any merit in their action? They have the merit of disinterestedness, but not that of the good they might do. While disinterestedness is a virtue, thoughtless spending reveals a lack of judgment, to say the least. Fortune is no more given to some individuals to be thrown away than to others to be locked up in a safe. This is a deposit for which they will have to render an account. They will have to answer for all the good they might have done, but also that which they failed to do, as well as all the tears they could have dried with the money they wasted on those who did not truly need it.
Yeah, that's a very interesting
Uh,
answer from the spirits, right? Because we we need to understand our the way to help others. To just throw the money we don't care away, we're not doing anything positive, right? We are being careless. If we have the opportunity of having possessions, what are we going to do with it is important, right? We will have to answer for all the good that we might have done and didn't do it. Because if we have the means to help others and are not helping others in a efficient way, we are creating karma, responsibilities for ourselves. The fact that we don't really care about possessions is positive, right? But it's not complete. It's incomplete, right? It's better to try to keep some for us if we are distributing efficiently the rest. There is more merit in taking care. Maybe you have the ability of taking good care of 10 people with the money you have, but you take care only of 8 because you are saving for yourself or 2. It's great. You already took care of 8. If you are wasting your money on 10 people that don't need money, you are responsible for the 10 that you should have helped, right? So it is a question of balancing, a question of using reason. Spiritism always asks us to use reason. And to use reason is to make good choices with our lives, to practicing charity to the best of our abilities, not indiscriminately and not to our own personal harm, right? Because if we create problems for ourselves, we are not helping ourselves. We need to take care of ourselves. We need to be in a good state of mind to efficiently be able to help others. And those that are careless with their possessions are not thinking of others and not thinking about themselves also. So it's not real. There's not much merit. It's as they say here. It's it's the same as those that don't give anything, right? It's no more given to individuals to be thrown away than to others to be locked up in safe. So both are equally responsible for what they are doing with it. Okay?
897.
Yeah, sorry. Jumped the gun here.
Jump the gun.
Yeah, I jumped the question. There we go. There you are. All right.
Is it wrong if people do good in the hope that they will be rewarded in the next life, and that their situation will be better there for having done it. Will such an act have unfavorable consequences on their advancement? You should do good for the sake of charity, meaning disinterestedly. It is completely natural to want to advance to be free from this painful life. The spirits tell us to do good to reach this end. Is it wrong to hope that, through doing good, we may be better off than we are on earth? Of course not. But those who do good impulsively, simply for the sake of pleasing God and providing relief to their suffering neighbors, have already reached a higher degree of advancement and are closer to reaching ultimate happiness than their brothers and sisters who, being more selfish, do good in hopes of receiving a reward instead of being compelled by the goodness of their own hearts. Should a distinction be made between the good we do for our neighbors and the effort we put forward to correct our own faults? We understand that there is little merit in doing good with the idea that we will be rewarded in the next life. Is it also a sign of inferiority to fix ourselves, conquer our passions, correct whatever flaws we may have, in the hope of bringing ourselves closer to the good spirits and elevating ourselves? No. By doing good, we merely mean being charitable. Those who count in every charitable deed they do, how much they will be rewarded in this life or the next, act selfishly. However, there is no selfishness in improving oneself in the hope of getting closer to God, which should be everyone's goal.
This question is very interesting, right? Because in the end, we've been taught by religions throughout the centuries, right? That we should fear God, that we should be good not to go to hell, that we should practice goodness or charity to go to heaven. And then Spiritism comes and teaches us that heaven and hell are states of mind, right? But we continue with that concept that, I want to do good because then I'll find myself in Nosso right? It's a very common thought by Spiritists. I want to go to Nosso so I need to do good. Again, it is not bad per se. Of course, if we are doing good because we are good, we are going to a good place. But if we are controlling our inferior tendencies, trying to fight against them, trying to learn because we want to go to a better place, because we want to be rewarded in a sense, it's not wrong. It's a path, right? We need to use the tools that we have, that we can, to improve ourselves. So whatever tools we are using that help us fight our inferior tendencies and internalize the good deeds, become good, more better spirits, are good, right? Are good for us. We are here to evolve. How are we going to evolve? Is by practicing charity, by helping our brothers and sisters. But if we are doing this because we know that by doing this we are going to find ourselves in a better place, it hasn't become second nature to us. The fact that we are doing this means that you eventually will become second nature. It's an exercise, right? You go to the academy, to the gym, right? The first day, everything hurts. Our tendency is to give up. right? But we go second day, third day, eventually it stops hurting, or we start pushing ourselves more and more and more. That's how you become well physically conditioned. It's the same thing with the moral evolvement, right? The more you do, the first day is difficult, right? To help others and to think of others before you think of yourself. After doing it for a period of time that varies according to each one, it becomes second nature. So we will stop thinking about the reward and we'll do it because that's who we are. That's our objective. But until we get there, it's nothing wrong to think of the reward. As they say here, right? By doing good, we merely mean being charitable, helping others. Uh, in the end, we are acting selfishly, as they say here, when we count every charity we do. Yes, but again, we are making an effort. Jesus told us, do not let your right hand know what your left hand do. What he meant by that is that we need to reach a level where we do it without thinking about it as a natural consequence of who we are. But until we get there, we need to make an effort, and the effort is a little bit selfish. There's no way out of it, right? We we are we change the hell for lower zones for infernal zones. We change heaven for nosular and other things, but in the end, it is more or less the same thing. We are still struggling with these concepts, right? Because we are trying to avoid going to difficult places. But the fact that we are making an effort, even if it's a kind of a selfish effort, it's positive. It's a sign of trying to improve, and that's all we can do in this life as an imperfect spirit. Okay.
You have to do the charity and helping others for the sake of helping others, and not because your neighbor you see that and then they think that you are good because you help someone else, and then not because of someone else who's gonna see you doing it. It must become from within the heart, as Adebari said.
Yes, yes. And again, we see people, I think we discussed this last week, right? People that build buildings and put their names on building hospital wings and things like that, right? They are getting their reward here. So their reward in the next life, it's not going to be great, but there still be some reward because they are doing something good, right? It's pride interfering with charity, right? Because you want to see your name there. But you are doing good, right? It's different than putting your name on a lot of other things, right? We're talking about charitable buildings and charitable works, buildings in wings of hospital, buildings in universities that you donate to a university to build a building and then put your name there. Not bad, right? It is.
It's the first step.
Yeah, it's a first step. It's better than just keep your money in the safe or using your money to buy islands or things like that, right? So, but again, it's a path of progress, right? Maybe next life, next time that they have this opportunity, they won't put their name. They'll put others' name, but we're getting there. Okay.
898. Physical life is only a temporary stopover, and our future life is what we should care about primarily. Is there any point in trying to acquire scientific knowledge that only refers to the objects and wants of this world? Of course there is. This knowledge enables you to benefit humankind. Also, If your spirit has already progressed in intelligence, it will rise faster in the spirit life and learn in an hour what it would take years to learn on earth. No knowledge is useless since it all contributes to your advancement in one form or another. A perfect spirit must know everything, and progress must be made in every direction. All acquired ideas help forward development.
Yeah, that's a very interesting question because what we have to pay attention here is Kardec's question is there any point in trying to acquire scientific knowledge that only refers to the objects and wants of this world? Because we are always acquiring knowledge that stays with us, right? But he's talking specifically about scientific knowledge that is going to be applied here in this world. And the spirits are very direct. Of course, there is. This knowledge enables you to benefit humankind. Again, we have to remember that we're going to come back, right? So if we find something that helps the physical body, let's say we work in the scientific study of the physical body and how to heal diseases or take care of health improvements, we are going to benefit from this when we come back in the next incarnation or others, right? So any progress, scientific progress that we are doing to this present world benefits humankind, it benefits all of us. We need to evolve. And again, of course, if you are a musician and you are learning music, it's something that transcends the physical world. But we need to live here, right? So we need people that know how to build better places for us to live, more efficient places for us to live, less energy wasted. All of these are for this physical world. There is no benefit to the spiritual world of building a better house for us to live here, an intelligent house. It benefits only this present world. But Earth is evolving with us. We need Earth to be better also for us to continue to be here. So every scientific knowledge that helps us progress, humankind progress, the physical world is useful. And of course, we as eternal spirits that need to evolve in the two wings, the moral and intellectual, all the intellectual knowledge that we acquire here is no knowledge is useless, since all contributes to your advancement in one form or another. So anything that we can learn, remember, the intellectual evolvement is building blocks, right? Putting things on top of things you already know. And all the knowledge we acquire stays with us forever. We don't bring to every incarnation, but belongs to us. So it's never wasted anything. So it's never late to start learning. When we talk about, for instance, we have the latest thing that everybody talks about is artificial intelligence, right? And some people are going to say, I'm too old to start using this. I'm too old to learn about it. You're never too old, because everything that you can learn here,
The session reading.
you carry with you
I'll call you.
for the future, right? So imagine going back to the spiritual world with all this knowledge acquired of artificial intelligence. That I'm sure in the spiritual world there is a better version of artificial intelligence, because everything that we have here is a bad copy of there, right? You read the books of André Luiz, he talks about plasma TVs 50 years before plasma TVs were invented or more, right? So we see that everything that we are using here are a bad copy of the spiritual world. So I'm sure that artificial intelligence in the spiritual world is much better than here. So Should we learn more about it? Should we learn how to use it? Should we learn the good and bad things of it? Because it has. Yes, of course. If we can, we should. It's only going to help. If we don't use here, we're going to use here when we come back or there, right? So
I always remember Divaldo saying that because he used to type on a typewriter his books, and then when computer came, one of his sons was teaching him how to use it, and he was like, "Oh, so I don't need to erase or start all over again. I can only delete and start and add a word here and there." And then he was, I don't know how old, but he was, later in life, and then he was using the cell phone.
oh yes, he was using so well the cell phone. You see, for instance, my parents, who were a little older than Vivaldo, but not much, they never wanted cell phones, never learned to use them, and never had any interest. We tried, but no interest.
My mom always says, "I don't know how to do it." I said, "You try."
Yeah, and again,
Yeah.
knowledge is always good, right? So it's never late for us to learn new things. Of course, we have different abilities, different capacities, and as we get older, we may have the privilege of choosing things that interest us more to learn than when we are younger, that we need to try to find other things, right? To learn to survive and then learn because of work. But there is always things to learn, right? There is always people that always wanted to play instruments but never had the time to learn. Start when you're older, right?
I also remember Ana Teresa, Brazilian speaker. Her mom, at the end of her physical life, 90 whatever plus, she started learning Esperanto because she said, "Oh, we need that for the next one." So she started learning. Well, she was really like at the end, and then she said, "Oh no, well, we need that for the next one, so we'll start now." Esperanto is what?
A universal language.
Universal language.
It's a universal language that was created in the 1920s, 30s, and there is a language that is used in some, especially in the Eastern European countries, and there is a good number of spiritists in Brazil that studies Esperanto, and the Spirits book is published in Esperanto. It's what English is nowadays. They try to do with Esperanto to become a universal language, right? But it didn't catch everywhere. Only in parts of the world. I actually visited the place that started it was in Poland. It was a Polish individual, Zamenhof, and there is a plaque for him there in Warsaw. Here he was born, and Zamenhof who started Esperanto. Yeah. So Anyway, so language is a very good thing, right? For us to. It's never late to learn other languages because maybe you're not going to be fluent, but it always helps. Okay. Oh, you're on mute, Philip. Sorry. Still on mute.
Oh, okay. Out of two rich individuals who both use wealth solely for their personal satisfaction, one was born into affluence and has never known want. The other earned his or her wealth by personal labor. Which is more shameful? The one who knows suffering and does nothing to relieve it. He or she experiences unrelieved pain. Too often, this person no longer remembers the difficulties he or she has endured.
This is a very interesting question because sometimes we think the opposite, right? That someone that came from nothing and became wealth has more reason to try to preserve their wealth, not to go back to the previous condition, right? And the spirits tell us that one that comes from nothing and becomes wealth has more responsibility to help those in need because they know what the others endured. So because you know, you have more responsibility to help those that are born into wealth and never had to face difficulties are less responsible for not helping. Again, both will face consequences because if you have money and you don't help, don't use money to help others, you are going to face the consequences. But it's what the spirits are telling us here: the more you know, the more responsible you are. So that applies here. The one that came from nothing knows more, so it's more, he or she is more responsible than the one who knows less. Simple, but again, logic, reason, right? Goes back to the more you know, the more responsible you are, which is what we always learn in Spiritism.
900.
900.
Can those who constantly accumulate wealth without doing good for anyone find an excuse in the fact that they will leave a large fortune to their heirs? This is a compromise with a guilty conscience.
Yeah, again, you take advantage of all the wealth that you accumulate. You live your life, with all the advantages of having all the money, and you feel you feel that because you are leaving the fortune to others, you are excused. And the spirits are clear here. This is a compromise with a guilt conscience. So you're not excused. You need to help others. And if you are thinking only of your heirs, you're being selfish. In the end, you're being selfish, right? Because you only think of yours first, and then you're thinking about your heirs later. You're being selfish, and it's not excusable.
901.
Yeah.
Imagine a scenario with two miserly individuals. One forgoes the necessities of life and dies in want, surrounded by treasures. The other is self-indulgent and cheap with respect to others. This person winces at making the smallest sacrifice for others or serving a noble cause, while the cost of indulging personal passions is inconsequential. This individual is always short on funds when kindness is asked for others, but has plenty of money to satisfy any of his own whims. Which of them is more disgraceful? Which one will be worse off in the spirit world? The one who recklessly spends money on personal pleasures because he or she is more selfish than miser. The other is already undergoing a part of the atonement.
That question is interesting, right? Again, comparing two individuals, one that is very rich and but doesn't do anything with the money, don't spend on themselves, and don't spend on others, don't spend on themselves. It reminds me of Howard Hughes by the end of his life, right? Those that know his story, right? He isolated himself from the world, living only within his own wealth. And the Spirit tells us that the one who spends recklessly money on themselves and do not help others is more selfish than the miser, because the miser is already suffering on their own by isolating themselves and living in their own world. I personally think it may be hard for us to fully understand the concept, right? I know the answer from the spirits here, and I understand because the one that is spending lavishly is living in the world, has more ability to see others and find the needs of others around them all the time. So they would be more responsible for than one that don't see anything because isolate themselves and live immersed in their surrounded by treasures but not using any of the treasures, right? I think both are going to face a very difficult challenge consequences for the lives they lived. But I kind of understand what the spirits mention here because in that sense that the one that is out there is more exposed to the necessities of others and is not doing anything about it, is more responsible. It's the same thing as the one that comes from nothing and becomes rich and don't help others because they know. And those that are already born in wealth, they don't know, right? They never lived. So I understand in that point. Okay,
902.
I know true.
Is it wrong to wish for wealth as a means of doing good? Such a desire is admirable when it is pure, but is it always truly disinterested? Don't people first desire to do good for themselves?
Well, I wish I won the lottery. Then I would help everyone, right? How many of us think about that, right? If it, again, the Spirit says, if it is pure desire, is admirable. But what we can think a little bit is, if we have the ability to help others, with the true ability to help others, the spirits will provide, right? Because they know our capabilities. We don't know our capabilities. We think that we are capable of doing one thing or the other, and many times we're not. But when we talked about Divaldo here on Monday on the mention of the way, right? That he started with nothing. He didn't have any money, neither him or Nilsson. And he left what it is right now, right? A place for help so many people, had so many children. So the sincere desire to help that was there, the rest came. So if you are truly interested in helping others and dedicating yourself to helping others, help will come in different forms and different ways. So, if you really want to win the lottery because you are really going to help others, maybe we will. But I think the 99% of us just want it for our personal pleasures first and foremost. We may use part of it, a small part of it, to help others.
I was watching a chunk TV program another day. It's My Lottery Dream Home or something like that. So people who won the lottery would buy big mansions, but they employ a lot of people. So they give jobs. So it's not that bad, right? They're providing jobs. I don't know.
Again, everything has, to balance, right? Again, if you are using the money for your own personal benefit, and by consequence you are helping some, you're doing something good. Only your conscience is going to judge you if that's all you could do, or
That's not all you could do.
yeah. Okay. All right. Let's do one more, Philip.
903.
Yeah.
Is it wrong to study other people's faults? To do so merely for the sake of criticizing or exposing them is wrong, because it demonstrates a lack of charity. To do so for your own benefit, to avoid replicating those flaws, may sometimes be useful, but you must not forget that understanding the faults of others is one of the elements of charity. Before criticizing others for their flaws, you should look at yourself and see if others could criticize you for the same faults. The only way to profit by such a critical examination of others' faults is by trying to acquire the opposite virtues. Are those you criticize cheap? Be generous. Are they proud? Be humble and modest. Are they callous? Be gentle. Are they cruel and petty? Be great in everything that you do. Basically, act in such a way so that it may be said of you in Jesus's words that you see the speck in your neighbor's eye, but do not see the beam in your own.
Yes, we are always judging other people. That's the reality, right? Because we are always analyzing other people's behaviors. Now, do we criticize or expose them? That's a different thing, right? When we are analyzing other people because we want to learn and to see, in the way that they act, what can we learn from them? How can we analyze our own imperfections? We put them ourselves in their place and think if we would do different. That's the way to grow, right? But if we are criticizing or exposing other people just for the sake of it, and it doesn't bring any benefit to them, actually causes harm to them, we are clearly demonstrating lack of charity, right? I saw the question the other day about, of someone that commits a terrible act. Should we denounce or not? And then the answer, it was very interesting, right? By denouncing it, are we going to protect society? Yes, we should denounce. By denouncing it, are we going to cause harm to this person if it's not a crime again, right? If it's only going to cause harm to the person we are denouncing, then maybe we should not denounce because everyone has to face the consequence of our actions. But we are very quick in criticizing others, and actually we have a tendency to see the imperfections that we have in others much more clearly than we see imperfections that we don't have, right? Because the problems we have call our attention on others. So the way that we have to deal with it is trying to acquire the opposite virtues. That's what the Spirit tells us. And always remember Jesus' words: see the speck on your neighbor's eye, but do not see the beam in your own, which is something we do a lot, right? We accuse people, of making mistakes, and if we look at ourselves, we would probably do even worse if we were placed in the same position. But it is hard, but a part of our life is to analyze others and to judge. Now, what we are doing with this judgment is what makes the difference for us. Okay. All right, we stop here. We start next week on 904.
I'd like to add something to this,
Sure.
if I may. Yeah, it's like we sometimes believe that when you see a fault in others, it's merely because you're recognizing that fault in you. Otherwise, you wouldn't have noticed it.
Exactly.
It's quite interesting. That's why we say sometimes you point the finger. When you point the finger, just like my hand, you point the finger. There are three fingers pointing at you.
Yeah, that's very good. Yeah, it's exactly that, right? We have the tendency of seeing the perfections of others on the imperfections we have, sometimes worse. That we have.
Yes, that's what happens.
Yeah, that's the reality. Okay, so we stop here. just a couple of announcements here. First one, I know you guys are all online, so it doesn't make much of a difference, but next week, studies is going to be online only because Elmo is traveling, and I'll be traveling also, but I will do it online, okay? So we'll be here next Thursday online. This
Only online. Okay.
Only
You mean only online? Okay.
yes, but we will have it. This Saturday, we have a talk by Ana Moreno from Portland, Oregon, When Life Changes, Destruction and Renewal, Saturday, 11 a.m. At the United States Spiritist Federation. This Sunday, we are going to study the book Action and Reaction.
What chapter?
It's chapter, I think is, I mean, I'll tell you right now. I think it's 21, but let me confirm. Action and Reaction.
John, I'm not sure, but maybe 17. I think I wrote that in my notes, but I'm not sure if that's accurate.
17, yes, expiring that. Thanks.
Yeah.
Exactly.
17. I have 17 also.
Yeah, 17.
Okay. I had 18 in my head.
And on book club Wednesday, we are going to start chapter 14, book Ardous Ascension by Victor Hugo and Divaldo Franco. Okay? Carol, can you do our final prayer, please?
Yes, I sure can. Thank you so much, John, for hosting for our class this evening. Thank you also, Philip, for reading for us this evening, and thank you everyone for participating this evening as well. Infinite Creator and Supreme Intelligence, we give thanks to be together for our studies of the Spirit's Book, Book 3, Chapter 12, Moral Perfection, and the topic is Virtues and Vices. The most admirable virtue is based on charity, and that includes that which we are trying to overcome in terms of imperfection and struggles. Exceptional goodness of character should be admired and can inspire us to transform also. The way showers are examples for us. Spiritism gives us the guidelines, and we can use our free will and discipline to progress. Selfishness, pride, and attachment to spiritual things can challenge our progress. Practicing charity can help us balance out the challenges through discernment and the efficient use of reason regarding our actions. Eventually, this will become second nature. Scientific knowledge helps us to benefit humankind in the physical world and helps us personally to evolve as well. May our conscience be our guide, and may we lessen our judgments of others and their actions. We give thanks to the spiritual benefactors and the good spirits for guiding and inspiring us this evening. May we receive the love, light, and peace of Christ within us and for our loved ones, our teachers, our directors, our counselors, our mediums, our workers, and all participants. We pray for inner peace, and especially now for world peace, and for those who are suffering in the spiritual and physical worlds. We pray for our center, SGNY, and all Spiritist centers throughout the world, that they may grow, prosper, expand, and be protected throughout the day and throughout the night. As we close, we humbly ask for safety and protection as we return to our family, friends, loved ones, and co-workers. And as we go forth now, may we remind ourselves to be beacons of love, of light, of peace, of service, and charity, which is love in action. May peace and love prevail. So be it.